Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome, Eli.
Hi.
Hi. Before we start, I have a lot of, I want to introduce you to the people that don't know Eli Reifman, people here and people that are going to watch this video later. So on your LinkedIn page, you write entrepreneur, leader, strategist, designer, consultant, ex-convict, with specialties at strategic marketing, financing, advising, mediation, technology, futurism, design, and Judaism, which are a lot of issues to wrap up in one event.
It sounds like a eulogy, like I was dead and you're talking about me in retrospect.
Not yet. Eli co-founded and managed Emblaze, a system that was evaluated for more than $8 billion at its peak. He was later convicted and sent to jail for more than 3 years. We will speak about that as well. Eli has 3 kids. He loved to cook, loved to play as a DJ, knows the Kabbalah very well. We might speak about that as well. And he rides a heavy motorcycle. Today he's serving as an expert and consultant in the area of crypto economy or cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology for global companies. Welcome.
Hi.
Interesting for me is knowing all the things that you're doing. How does a typical day in your life look like?
Well, first, I don't know, it's one of those questions you never expect. Really, it's more about when I wake up, I cook for my wife.
Okay.
I'm totally serious, by the way. But
I
strongly suggest that. She's here, yes.
We can ask
yes.
her.
Maybe she leaves, I can say something else, but essentially, yes, I start my day by cooking to my wife. I don't sleep much. I sleep like essentially 3 hours a night in average. It's a form of a disease that they didn't give a name yet to, but it helped me a lot during my years as an entrepreneur. So my day starts usually at around 3, 4 a.m., no later than that, and we roll with that.
So at 3, 4 a.m. you start cooking, doing a lot of noise in the house and smells. How can you sleep when he's cooking? And so I was speaking with a lot of people about this interview. We spoke before, so
yeah.
We said we're going to be very open about this interview and everything. So I spoke with them, and most of the people, when I speak about Eli and tell them about this interview, they tell me he is a genius. This is a guy who knows to sell everything to anyone, but he's also a crook. He was convicted. So why are you going to present him and interview him in front of the audience? And I told them that we're not going to judge him, but we think that the things that Eli did are very, very interesting for people. First of all, the scale up that he did for Emblaze, and then a lot of things he done in his life that for me are very interesting, and I think for the people here as well. So, what people don't understand about you?
I think people understand absolutely everything about me. I'm an extremely public figure in my past. Everything I've done, either personal or public, was very, very outspoken everywhere in the media, on the web. You can learn so much about me. You can fall yourself asleep, really, on a very dark night. So I think people understand everything, and it's just, it's what's the most interesting in a very particular moment. So when I grew a company from 0 to $8 billion, everyone was saying, wow, that's amazing, this is the next big thing, and so on and so forth. I've managed 6,000 employees, and I was nominated several times. I was one of the best managers in Europe, in Israel, you name it, it doesn't matter. And then I went to prison, and I was nominated as public enemy #1. And that was also very cool. In prison itself, I have a status because everybody knows everything. Prisons are very knowledgeable these days. I had people in prison yelling from the other side of the court, Reifman, what about our business? It was our business.
You found entrepreneurship in the prison as well?
Yeah, I've taught in prison. I've been 3.5 years, and most of the time I was teaching, which essentially passed the time, and I taught easily to thousands of different students that came through. Part of it was entrepreneurship. When I was teaching business, the prison authorities were very concerned. They came in, they stopped it. Essentially, it was an interesting moment in times. And also teaching Judaism to Muslims was also extremely interesting.
Right.
And then I taught Islam to Jewish people, and that was even more interesting. And then Judaism to Jewish people, and that was like the end of me. But, yeah. So.
Any special friends or entrepreneurs you met in the prison that you're still engaged with today?
Sure, you have a lot of entrepreneurs in prison.
You have Prime Minister in prison, right?
Yeah. No. Prisons in Israel are comprised out of 80% Arabs, not because they're worse people, but because it's our sport to put them in, unfortunately. But essentially, no, not too many of those.
So let's go back to your childhood. You were born in not in Israel, right?
No, I was born in Russia, in the Ukraine, immigrated with my family when I was 5, and started life here, from first grade.
Ra'anana?
No. We started from Nazareth, where Jesus was born.
Wow.
Wait, give it a moment. And then we moved to Rishon LeZion, which is like, okay, you're going down. And then at a certain point moved to Ra'anana, which is like a snobbish upscale nothingness. And eventually now in a very nice country place, raising kids. Yeah.
Snobbish?
No, just quiet. Yeah.
Your parents went back to your childhood, so you were raised in Israel, Nazareth, and Rishon LeZion, and your parents, you came from Russia. What did they do? What were the,
My father was a dentist, so straightforward dentist.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, her profession was to give him hell for the better part of 40 years, and she was very good at that. And they worked together, which made it even more professional, because it was like 24/7. Yeah. But,
so how did you find yourself as an entrepreneur very early after the army with the father? They probably wanted a doctor as well, right?
Listen, I'm a Jewish boy to a Jewish mother.
Right.
So from childhood, I knew that I am like the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, there's nothing better than me. Second thing was that I could be anything, but not in an American sense of the word. That it was very targeted. You will be an ambassador to the Israeli state in New York. And I heard it so many times.
Right.
And I told her I want to be a mafia boss. And she wouldn't accept that. So essentially pushing me into excellence was something that any Jewish mother does, and everybody knows it here. It's like one of those things, yeah. I didn't have much choice.
Are they proud of you, of what you accomplished?
My mother, she's dead now. She passed away, unfortunately, but she was not proud of me until the last breath that she took, because I never finished an academic degree. For a Russian Jewish mother, a son that has no degrees essentially is not a son, is a disappointment. Or as they say in English, מאכזב הורים. Yeah.
But you have a Doctor of Honor from Bar-Ilan, right?
Yes. I've got a lot of degrees, by the way. I've got a lot of honorary degrees. I had one of the most successful lectures I ever had was academic practicalities, teaching it in MBAs in almost every university, definitely in Israel, in the States, in London, etc. But she always said, yeah, but it's not real, it's honorary. It's not a real degree. So she wasn't happy, but essentially, yes, she was proud, unhappy, but proud. My father is proud with me. He was proud when I went to prison. He's proud with me, period. It's like my boy, Yeah.
What was your first real job? And what age, which age?
I started to do business when I was very young. I started to do business when I was 8, real business.
Oh.
I started from software. I was a programmer for the better part of that. My friend and I, we've built the first ever TV repair shop management software on Commodore 64, if there are people old enough here to remember that.
I had one of those.
Yeah, and it worked for several good years, so that was our first business. And then I moved to entrepreneurship. My parents financed the import of marble from Russia to Israel. I imported marble. That was one of the funniest ever because we brought it in. I was so excited. Marble, you know. And then, and then we found out when we took it for testing that, in around 1 million years it will be ready to be used on buildings. So that was my first major loss, my parents' first major loss. And then I went to other entrepreneurship all the time. A lot of failures and eventually high tech and the beginning of a success,
Let's speak about the beginning of the success.
Sure.
So you joined the army. You went to Shimon Time, I think, right?
No.
But you were a programmer in the army.
I was a programmer in the army to begin with, Mamram.
Mamram.
Yeah. And then after that I went to intelligence, etc. But it started from Mamram, and it was great because I could both be in the army and have my entrepreneurship business. I was, by the way, one of the only people in the army with a cell phone when it's just begun, and I was brought to questioning by the army because they were afraid that I'm like radiating secrets, you know. For this, it was it probably was kind of a premonition, the questioning part. But so
that was a cell phone, not a smartphone. But so we'll get to the smartphone in a few minutes. So after the army, you started your real career, entrepreneurship career.
In the army. During the army, the first startup, 1994. It was my last year in the army. We started up Geo Interactive, that eventually became Emblaze, that became the $8 billion company, 6,000 employees, etc., etc. But it started from 4 entrepreneurs. We were 3 out of the army, 1 financial guy. 4 of us set up at the time Geo Interactive, and essentially started from streaming video. Today, I'm almost ashamed to say, because when I say it, nobody believes, and I'm also a convicted criminal, so nobody believes anything I say. But essentially, if you go and you dig up the internet, you will find out that streaming video, as it is, every YouTube you see, everything, was indeed invented by Emblaze, by Geo Interactive at the time. The first patents ever filed. There's actual lawsuit of Emblaze versus Apple and Microsoft for infringing the patent on streaming video, HTTP tunneling, if you understand. So, that was the beginning.
You actually have a story about the first time you presented the streaming video.
Yes, by the way, we presented it for the first time. Like, now you have startup grind, and it's cool. At the time, there weren't so many of those. The word high-tech, by the way, was not even invented yet. The word high-tech started in 1996 as a sector. 1994, there is no high-tech. So there was a media convention in Cannes, in France. It was called Media. And on Media, we came to present our invention, which was streaming video. Now, you're talking about the time where everybody's working with 14.4 modems, if you remember. It's like this, you know, in the background, when it dials in, and then you see a textual web page, coming in like this. Not video, textual. So we had 2 huge screens. At the time it wasn't a falling flat screen like here. It was like all those old Sony screens that were so deep, you know, with a backwards projection, etc. 2 huge screens. On one of them, we presented a regular page. On the other one, we presented empowered by Emblaze technology. And you saw a clock, just a small drawing of a clock coming in. And this clock is coming in like this, regular internet. And then there was Emblaze, came in immediately, and he's like laughing at the other clock and dancing and doing all this. And people went nuts. There were over 400 articles in over 30 countries published about this amazing new technology of moving pictures on the internet. It was hilarious, but that was the beginning.
That was 1996?
94.
So you have a lot of entrepreneurs at a very early stage. How did you found this company?
At the time, there were no VCs, no such thing as venture capital. There were simply rich people with money and companies that were looking where to invest, not even high-tech companies. Our first monies came in from individuals that we managed to persuade. They couldn't understand what we're saying, but seriously. And a couple of Israeli old tech companies, one of them was a salary producing tickets company, governmental. They put like $40,000 in us. We celebrated for a week. Yeah. So this is how we started. We got the first monies in, and then we rolled like everybody else. We stayed away from VCs when they started to grow. We stayed away from VCs like religiously, just because of the process. This process, you know, I don't know how it is today. Maybe things are better, but it was a killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that. So, but we founded ourselves like this, and then eventually IPOs. We became extremely good at the public arena. Most people don't even know, but public arenas exist even for early stage companies.
Right. This is one of the things we will probably speak later for tips for entrepreneurs. But besides the streaming video at Emblaze, you also presented. There was a big. I would say the big flaw, but maybe you'll see it otherwise. With a very interesting smartphone that you presented very early, like 3 years before even Apple presented the iPhone.
So again, it's one of those things that when this video will go online, people will say that this is a total lie, etc. But at least until now, there are like over 2,000 people alive that know that what we're saying is true. We had the device, the smartphone that you call today, which is essentially a phone without a keyboard, and it has a full screen covering its whole front page, and it's all direct manipulation, interaction, yeah? So essentially, what today every kid knows, we had it designed in 2001 to, mind you, the first iPhone is 2007. The actual illustration of this device with full 3D animation and everything, design to the point in 2001. It was built in 2004, produced by Sharp in 2008 after the first iPhone. So yeah, we had it, and yes, it is a big flop because just when we wanted to launch it, I went into prison. Yeah.
That's a problem. So maybe it's another lesson to learn. So if the company is built on one person, that's a problem.
The company was not built on one person. This company, until this very day, this company exists not under Emblaze. The whole group of companies, same management, by the way, same management exists and runs the same 6,000 employees, very profitable. It's just in the hands of a Polish conglomerate now. It's not mine anymore. Right. But it exists, and it works, and it's successful. Within Emblaze, there were the special projects like X-Files, the things that I really wanted to do because it was interesting. Yeah, like Google X at the time. So one of these projects was to build the next generation mobile device, and yeah, I didn't make it.
What's the story behind the name Emblaze?
The story behind the name Emblaze.
Right.
We were
people thinking a lot about the name, right? Like
yeah, no, we didn't think about this. Our name was Geo for some reason. Anyway, and we wanted to call this streaming technology. We wanted to give it a name, so we were meeting some investors, and the investors, you know how American investors sometimes they go, well, it's done, $5 million, it's already done, don't worry about the money, it will be wired, just go ahead, write the patent, start working, the money will be there. The money never got there, but we wrote the patent. And while writing the patent, we needed to find a name, so I wanted Blaze, because it was blazing fast, so Blaze. And then the guy in the US from the patent office said, well, it's taken. So I said, okay, what about Emblaze? So yeah, it's free. It's like you're searching for a domain, same thing. Right. I just wanted the 5 million, so I wanted to finish it fast. So, and it stuck, Emblaze stuck since then, yeah.
And it worked nice. So the company really grew, and 2008, you said you were convicted, sent to jail. What happened at this point? I mean, before the jail, even before the jail, what happened to a guy very early, 30-something, 34, 35 years old, managing a very, very big company? Yeah. How do you feel? I mean,
well, nobody, and this is serious, like nobody teaches you how to handle money. We learn so many things in school, it's unbelievable. Nobody teaches you what happens if you actually become what you want to become. It's not you are normal people, but everybody out there, they're crazy, they want to become rich. And the crazy people who want to become rich, they don't know what they want. Because when they get rich, At least me. I will not talk about the others. You have no clue what it is. And then suddenly you're worth $1 billion liquid, real. And nobody taught you to handle this. And I can tell you straightforward, I handled that very badly. If you see like the Wolf of Wall Street, is like a kid compared to what we've done at these times. It's totally, people who've lived with us know exactly, I'm not exaggerating. But you go completely nuts, it twists your mind, you are going through mental changes that are incomprehensible. And really, I think it had a very negative effect. If you make a movie out of that, it would be a great movie. But in terms of life, it almost killed me, yeah, so.
And at this point, you start learning the Kabbalah, right?
No. I started, everything has to do with Judaism in general. Kabbalah at the time was not even, again, it wasn't not Madonna, not this, it wasn't even a thing. Kabbalah was part of my, I'll take it back. People usually, not you again because you're normal, but people usually go to Kabbalah because they usually want to find very quick and easy solutions to very complex problems. Like, I have big issue in my marital life. Maybe some spell in Kabbalah or some 3-letter thing and something around, some red thing around my hand will solve it. Maybe it will make me rich, maybe it will make me fertile and give me kids. We're looking for quick magical solutions for this. I was no different. For me, it was about more power. I heard about Kabbalah as the Jewish voodoo thing of mystical powers. I wanted more power. I had already $1 billion, so, and I went into this thing to learn this. And surprisingly, through this very shallow journey, I found out Judaism. Yeah. One of those things.
And so you studied, you read a lot of books. You told me you have thousands of books about the Judaism and Kabbalah.
Yeah, I have this thing, it's almost like an OCD. If I learn something, I have to learn it all the way. And this was one of these things. So you open your first book of Kabbalah, it's like, it seems like the person who wrote it was on drugs or something. It's like, but so to me it bothered me and I really needed to understand that. So I went deep into this. I bought every book. People know about the Zohar, but it's 1 out of 3,000 essentially books in this epos. And yeah, I learned myself for many years, and eventually a picture came up, and eventually I started to understand it. Yeah.
I'm speaking about that a little bit because one of the people one of my friends, I sent him an invitation. He told me, I know him very well. He taught my mother Kabbalah, and I said, what do you mean? So he gave a course. He did courses and was training for Kabbalah. And then when we met, he spoke about a few years that he taught a lot of people.
Yeah, it was 4,000 people a week. 4,000 people a week came to him. It's very simple. I'm not a Kabbalist. I didn't have visions. I'm not seeing God and He's not talking to me. I'm trying. But essentially, I just learned it well, and it bugged me that people don't really address it in the right manner. They turn it into something commercial. So I started to teach in Bar-Ilan University, and suddenly it became 1,000 people every session, 4 sessions a week for that. And I'm saying straight away, I'm just passing on the knowledge. I'm showing you stuff, and here's the documents, here's the quotes and the references. Go see if maybe I'm mistaken, I don't know, maybe. And it became into years and years of tens of thousands of people who went through it, yeah.
Do you think that because you learned the Kabbalah and you were really into that helped you later in your life and maybe in jail and all of that?
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. The answer is absolutely yes. I was teaching it just to teach it, but it's like, you don't realize, if you remember this Karate Kid, wax on, wax off thing, yeah? So you do something and you don't realize how it makes you better. So I was teaching it for so long and for so many times that I realized only the impact it had on me only when I really was detached from it completely. So it was an interesting journey. A different conversation. Yeah.
Different conversation,
yeah.
totally. Want to elaborate a little bit about what got you into jail and what you learned from this process?
Sure, I'd love to elaborate what.
No, just a few minutes and then we'll...
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Essentially, I don't know if you recall, 2001, 2002, there was a bubble burst and everything went down. Microsoft was 70% down on its stock. Huge giants like Lucent and Hotel in the telecom business were completely bust, going 90% down. Our stock price went down like everybody else, like 90%. And we became a company that is worth around $100 million only on the stock exchange, when we had $400 million net cash in the bank, no debt. So we became a target of takeover. It's a classic takeover thing, because you pay like a $50 million and you get $400 million cash in the company. And so there was a hedge fund from the US that started to really pile up stock and doing a hostile takeover. I took all my pride and I said, nobody will take my company from me. It was a very ego thing, absolutely. And within this, I went to fight it. Now, I will not go into the details of fighting it, but I was absolutely using illegal methods in fighting this takeover. And in this respect, I thought I was certain that it would be okay because I'm right. So essentially, they figured out what I did. I went through a whole court process through this, and they found me guilty, rightfully. And I went through 3.5 years in prison, and it was absolutely, they were right. I was the only one that was actually guilty in prison. Everyone else is innocent. And yes, but that's it. So I went. I won the battle, but I lost the war. You know, the company is not mine.
Right.
They didn't take over the company, but the company is not mine. And I earned prison time. Made me very popular.
The thing is that your story, when I was thinking about that after we met, is today you have a lot of tycoons, I would say, in the last 5 years. They lost a lot of money, our money, basically. And nobody is sent to jail, and most of them, I don't know how much debt they have, how much they paid back.
Yeah.
But you went to jail, and I think you paid almost everything, right?
Yeah, that's correct, but it's not the point. If somebody believes in karma, let's leave out mysticism, but my mother, before she died, she was very pissed because they were really hunting me down, the media and everything. They really because I was a public figure, so it was popular to hunt me down. So she said, yeah, but they're not fair, it's not fair. I said, maybe it's not fair, but I do deserve this. And not necessarily because of this act, but because of past acts that they never caught me on. So it's kind of a karma. So when you see people that do things and they don't really get caught or don't go to prison for it, I wouldn't look at it that shallow. Because, you know what? Let's put it a different way. Out of those, and maybe you know that maybe out of those who take a lot of money from the public and steal it and don't go to prison, how many are happy? Nobody looks at it this way. Prison was hell, but I was happy in prison. I'm not joking. Seriously. And I came out almost without any problem. So, no, but seriously, you need to measure it in somewhat less, binary methods.
Okay. Yeah. Let's continue to what you're doing today.
Yeah.
So I saw you in a presentation about the blockchain technology and a little bit about crypto economy, but we want to focus more about the crypto economy. So maybe you can translate for us what's crypto economy about.
Okay. So here's the thing. Like everything else, when you look at crypto today, crypto economy, it's many different things to many different people. First, before anything else, the people who created it, some of them were idealists or anarchists. They wanted to have a world without centralized governance, whatever it may be. Not necessarily money, because a decentralized anything means you don't have a centralized party that you need to answer to. So essentially, money without banks, insurance without insurance companies, countries without government. That was the initial idea. Maybe I wasn't part of this group, but this is how it seems. Later on, suddenly it became a matter of pure speculation. People understood that they can make lots of money on it. And that's a drive, like any other drive. Greed, the need of money, etc., etc. Money is a major drive. So today, crypto economy, I have a few friends that are really heavy into finances, and one of them says, yeah, but this is like an empty thing. There's nothing behind it. There are no assets. There's nothing there. And the other friend says, yeah, but I made 2,000% last year. He says, yeah, but that's a fraud. This is like a pyramid. There's nothing there. Say, yeah, but I made 2,000% last year profit. And this, so some people see it as a decentralized something. Some people see it as an anarchy method. Some people see it as a method of making money. Then it became another tool for raising funds for startups and companies in general. Yeah, there are IPOs, there's debt and bonds and convertibles and this, and there's ICOs. So this thing is definitely a something that could be many things, because it's also a technology that has nothing to do with money, and you could use it. It's a crap technology, by the way, for anything but essentially many good things could be done.
Technology, yeah. The blockchain technology.
The blockchain technology inside. But in essence, crypto economy is many different things, and it's evolving. The great thing about that, and if you put aside everything, it doesn't matter, because everyone is right and everyone is wrong about crypto economy at the same time. Everyone, without exception. But the great thing, that it has really a life of its own. Look at it from a side, without being too clever. It has a life of its own. It evolves through the people, by the people, almost like the American flag. It really is there. It really is there, and it's real. $8 billion raised for companies. Some of them are scams, some of them are real. So I know many companies raising money on IPOs or VCs, and there are scams, complete scams, exactly the same thing. And some of them are real. Many failures, it's okay. On regular money, the 98% failure rate for the past 50 years, all good. So money is used by Bitcoin for crime, absolutely. Dollars are used for crime, way more than Bitcoin, nobody is looking at that, and so on and so forth. But essentially, we put all this aside, and it's a beautiful thing that for the first time ever, I believe, started as something that really ground up from the people, not by a central company, not by a central agency, country, or anything. And that is spectacular by itself, in my view.
So how do the regulators in Israel and the US, how do they fight it? Do they embrace it?
That's also a very nice dynamic. So when you look at it, at the first instinct, everybody wanted to fight it. The banks, the countries, everything. But because it's decentralized, because it comes from the people, they realize they can't. China by itself,
right.
China is very powerful, and they said, okay, no more ICOs. And we were right in the middle of an ICO, by the way, when they said, no, we returned $78 million to Chinese investors on an ongoing ICO. But ICOs continues despite the Chinese blockade, because you cannot really stop it. And at a certain point, countries understood that they cannot stop it. So they say, okay, you cannot beat it, let's join it in some way or the other. So now, almost every country on the face of the planet is writing some sort of law or regulation for the crypto economy. Now, by itself, if you're writing a law on how to do it, it means you accept it. You're not against it. You say, yeah, you should do it, but let's do it less jungle-like, let's do it a bit more civilized, and let's put some rules in there. And nobody knows if they will succeed or not, but definitely it's already something that is an unstoppable force. Could be used for good, for evil, like anything else, but that's it, it's there.
Where is Israel in this game?
Israel about crypto is very much like Israel about cannabis.
Okay.
We have the smartest people in the cannabis industry, seriously, in the medicinal cannabis industry and pharma cannabis in Israel, and essentially we are like behind everybody else on that because of whatever. I will not go into politics. Same thing, we have the smartest people on blockchain, at least in my view, concentrated in Israel, and yet we are behind on this, on every front. Take any front on mining, on ICOs, on crypto, design, on anything like this, and we are like way behind on this. We almost became leaders because Bancor was the first, and these are Israeli guys, and they opened up the ICO market. But then we're sliding back, and America takes a lot, and now Malta is huge. You know, all sorts of things.
Are there big banks that already there? They
of course.
What are they doing? What the action they are actually doing?
Go to it. Listen, today, when you look at this, it's like that. Take Switzerland, take Singapore, take England, etc., and you see banks, national banks, that open crypto accounts that actually, one by one, are accepting crypto
Can I,
funds.
as a citizen, English citizen, British citizen, can I open a crypto account in what, a Barclays?
Sure, there are banks that you open an account and you have like a dollar account, a pound account, and a Bitcoin account, and so on. These things are already happening. It's happening, it's in progress, it's there. So you can see all the establishments accepting it, not just as a method of payment, but as an economic tool. You will see very quickly, we see, if anybody understands it, we see custodian services, like for shares. We see clearing services already being set up. We see merchant payment. We had here, who was it? Coriander, I think, yeah? We see crypto, fiat crypto exchanges happening already with the existing credit cards, facilitation, PSPs, etc. It's happening. That's it. It's an industry that is in progress, very young, but there.
So where will we be in 2-3 years from today? Not 10 years. 2-3
I
years
have
from today?
no clue. I love it when people say Bitcoin $60,000 by the end of 2018. No, Bitcoin will drop down to 2,000. Listen, the beauty about such events like the crypto economy, that they have so many parameters in them because they're driven by the public. I personally believe nobody knows. And every day, every single day, I'm surprised both by ingenuity of humans of what to do with it and how governments and everybody else have said. And I believe that one of the most beautiful things about this is the surprise factor. Will it be regulated? Will it not be? If it will be regulated, what shape will it take? You know, where will it go? Will there be one cryptocurrency dominating? Will there be 2,000? Will there be 100? Will it be better than money? Not as good as money, etc. Listen,
so
it's open.
What's your role in this industry? You're trying to do what? To regulate it, not to regulate it, to centralize it, not decentralize it.
Okay. I'm coming from a very rich past of IPOs working with regulatory parties. I've done a lot of IPOs. At a certain point, when there was Lehman Brothers, if you remember at the time, one of the largest banks, I was laughing at them that I make more deals in a quarter than they do, essentially, for real. And essentially, I believe in a regulated market. I believe in a regulated market without it killing the decentralized idea. Because most people, they're afraid of regulations because they don't understand. We are afraid of things we don't understand, like aliens. Okay? Although they all come in peace. So same in regulation, and this is like a 30-second explanation about regulation. The SEC, like the devil, yeah? The SEC, they're saying two things. If you're raising money, you have two ways to do it. If you sell it to the Eli Reifmans of the world, to the sophisticated investors, they're called accredited investors, do it. Just do it. Don't even tell me. Just go ahead, do it. Because Eli is a big boy, he's a financial shark, and if you fraud him, it's his problem. But if you want to raise money from the Main Street investors, from the grandmothers of Omaha, then you have to go through me and to build a prospectus, so we make sure that you provide enough information for the grandmother to understand the risks involved in that. That's it. This is what a prospectus is all about. In Hebrew, the word is much better. It's called tashkif. Tashkif from the word shakuf, transparent. It provides transparency for the people who don't understand. Now there's a different discussion because prospectuses today, nobody can read. Nobody reads them. But this is the idea. The idea is not bad. The idea is to protect the general public. So today, I am involved in consulting companies in doing exactly the same ICOs that they do, initial coin offerings, but to take the coin and submit it as a prospectus to the regulatory party. It could be the SEC in America or FINMA in Switzerland, etc. But make it so you can sell it to anyone without the fear of being hunted by regulation.
So the vision of the actions you do today is like 2-3 years from now, although we don't know what will happen, is that I would say Bitcoin and such cryptocurrencies would be a bit more regulated, so banks and other financial...
We need to, okay, Bitcoin is one thing.
Right.
And then there's a huge abyss and then the rest of the crypto world. So they cannot be in the same sentence. But essentially, raising money through ICOs, just like through crowdfunding.
Yeah.
I see it as an invaluable, it's a fantastic tool to raise money with. And yes, I believe it will be fully regulated, but But it will have a middle ground, because if they go full-blown regulation on it, they will kill it. And even the SEC, if you're following a bit, they're saying very clearly, we want to regulate it, but to put the needle somewhere in between.
Right.
So it's not regulated like NASDAQ, like choking you, but somewhere that is like halfway to the crypto economy principles and everything. And that, I believe, will be phenomenal. New tool for fundraising for new companies.
Also for small companies?
Of course. It started from small companies. Well, come on. First ICOs, except for serious companies like Bancor, let's say, first ICOs are PowerPoint companies. That's it, a PDF company.
We spoke before about the IPOs for small companies.
Yeah.
Let's take it now. So you think also companies, early stage, I would say a couple of millions revenue already, they can go for IPO?
Absolutely. Today, most people don't know it, but in terms of raising public funds, every stock exchange in the world has a certain part of its exchange that is built specifically for early stage companies. At the time, we started when it was London Stock Exchange, and then they built AIM. AIM was for early stage companies, a public environment. Also NASDAQ. It was New York Stock Exchange as the main exchange, and NASDAQ was built for early stage and more dynamic young companies, etc. And today, Toronto Stock Exchange and Toronto Stock Exchange Ventures. Now, raising public money is by far better than private money, and I can argue that with anybody. I've been arguing that for 30 years. I can argue that in any forum and win every debate on that. There's no question for the company. Public is by far, in these environments, in the special environments for early stage company, in exchanges, is by far better than private money. By far. We can elaborate if you'd like.
No, before you elaborate, I'm going to ask the people, if anyone want to ask questions about this IPO, ICO, about the blockchain, the economy, this is a good time. So if you want to share questions, this is a good time. Or just think about it for later.
Or forever hold your peace.
Yeah. Forever hold your peace. נורית, תחזור על השאלה.
Second, I just heard that there was a big real estate deal here in Israel, that one of the entrepreneurs just bought a house with 50% of the deal was done by Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Any thoughts about it?
Yeah, so Nurit is asking, she says that just now in the Israeli press there was a story about one of Israel's prominent entrepreneurs in the crypto world that essentially bought a very expensive house with 15% paid in Bitcoin and crypto. And it's very, very simple to answer the thoughts. And I'm not the first to say it, people wrote books about it. Money, this thing, fiat money, that we pass from one person to another in exchange for houses, sex services, sorry about that, etc. Money is all about consensus. Money exists because we all agree that this piece of paper means something. There is no gold standard, there are no backing assets behind it, there's nothing behind the dollar. Nothing. So if people agree that Bitcoin is a valid currency, it's a currency. And as a matter of fact, there was one person saying, I will pay you X number of millions of dollars in Bitcoin. The other person said yes. And he said yes because he knows there's a certain consensus in the world. Because if you go to Expedia today, you can buy flight tickets with Bitcoin. If you go to Microsoft, you can pay for some of the services in this. And if you're in Japan, you can buy sushi and coffee with cryptocurrencies and so on. So my thoughts are very simple. This is precisely the thing that makes our consensus not a government decision, but human public consensus into a real power. It is maybe the first time ever that something really democratized happened. Democracy is not really there, but here, this is democracy. Two people without government deciding that something is money. Then they go and they report it to the IRS and they pay taxes for it, but they decided it's money, not the government. And that's phenomenal in my view.
But I don't think they pay tax for that.
Sorry?
I don't think they pay tax for it.
In terms of tax, it's going to be a problem, and also the value is really, we can see the ups and downs recently, which are really.
So Nurit is saying, I'm just repeating what you're saying, she said, yeah, but the Bitcoin is very volatile, and there's a problem, and yeah, but the taxation is yet not solved, and there's a problem. One of the problems of us as humankind is the perception of time. We look at everything like, oh my God, this is all horrible, and this is just the last 5 minutes. If we stretch time, if you and I talk about this again in 5 years, you will laugh that we even spoke about this, because Bitcoin will not be volatile. And it's not about it, maybe it will be volatile, but there will be hedging tools, financial tools to cap the volatility. And by the way, already being built now. And taxation issues of Bitcoin will be solved, I think, any moment now. We can wait for this. You know that they're debating it. Every single agency in the world right now is debating how to tax it, and they will solve it. So not now, they will do it in a year from now, 5 years, but it will happen. That's it. Because it has become real currency and real asset, they will tax it. They will not lose the opportunity of taxation.
One more question, Costa.
But don't you think that it's like a pyramid? Who came first, he is gaining the most out of it. It's like a pyramid. Who came first, no matter who you are or what is your job position, or who is coming first, who first believes in Bitcoin, is getting the most of it.
So the very nice guy here, whose name is Costa, says, but don't you think it's like a pyramid, that whoever came first at the top of the pyramid makes the most, and then you have the dumb public? It's my voice, so yeah, let's follow for it.
2015, 2014, 2015, 2016, we bought a lot of Bitcoin. There, he's now getting a lot.
So, my answer to this, he says 2014, 15, whoever bought Bitcoin now is a billionaire, and so on. Yeah, so it's like a pyramid. My answer to you is simple. Every single thing in human history is a pyramid. The first people who found oil, or were lucky to live not in Israel. First people who decided that gold is of value. Don't forget, it wasn't like today. No, seriously, let's talk about this. America is controlled, not controlled, okay? But America has some very, very few rich, powerful families that hold a lot of the wealth that didn't come from high tech, but they were the first. They came from the Mayflower, and they were the first one to get the first lands that were costing nothing. Why do we go to America? Rishon LeZion in Israel. There are a few families there that when they immigrated in 1882, they were the first. And then the Arabs gave them a rock, and he could throw the rock, and then the distance would dictate how much land he will get. Today, I can throw a rock at myself, and it will cost me $1 million shekels to begin with. So it's always like this. It's always like this. You're right. It's a pyramid. The first one.
During the history, right?
Yeah. In human history. Now, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But I'm saying it's the same. It's the same. And our thing is not to look at the first. Yes, there are first few lucky people. And this guy with the 2,000 Bitcoin on his Sony PlayStation or whatever, yeah, he's lucky.
So it's a matter of luck. It's not a matter of putting effort or something.
Beginning is always a matter of luck. Check out the story about Viagra. It's not a matter of science. It's a matter of luck. They never intended it to do what it was supposed to. They wanted it to be a blood pressure. And then look at this now. What a beautiful thing, yeah? Blood pressure, absolutely. But now it's always a matter of luck. I can give you so many stories like this. Let's talk about 3M. 3M, the 3M, the sticky notes. It wasn't, they never thought that these not working half sticky notes will be so popular. And I can go on, Michael Jackson and others. But essentially, everything is like this. It begins, but now it already became into something. Now it's an economy. And I'm okay with a few lucky few that made the first part of the pyramid. I would want to be one of them, but I'm not. It's okay. But let's see how we can take it to the next level.
Eli, I have some yes/no questions for you.
Go ahead.
You never reviewed them, so it's going to be first time for you as well. So just answer yes/no or something very, very sharp and very instinctive. Team or a single entrepreneur?
Single.
Business plan, yes or no?
No.
Crowdfunding, yes or no?
Yes.
Co-working spaces?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Exit fast or grow?
Growth.
Grow. Prototype versus user validation?
Prototype.
China or the US?
I'll take the fifth.
Anything else as well? Patent, yes or no?
Maybe.
Depend on what?
Depends on what the investor wants to hear.
Okay, this is our next point. Yeah. I see where you're going to.
Yes.
iOS, or Android?
Android, absolutely.
Android.
Yeah.
Go to market globally or locally?
Globally. By the way, no such thing as local anymore.
Global.
Yeah.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla. Yeah.
Tel Aviv or Jerusalem?
Tel Aviv.
Ra'anana or Rishon LeZion?
Rishon LeZion by far.
Okay. We go to the last section where I'm going to ask you questions about tips for entrepreneurs, for early-stage entrepreneurs. Let's start with the last sentence you told me about how to raise money from VCs or angels.
Yeah, so what's the question?
Yeah, so yeah, we were speaking about it. So the question is, who to raise money from, and what are your the main 3 tips for raising early seed money from entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs?
I'll start with the second part first.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll go to. Let's. I'm trying every time that I give a speech of this sort to give some practical suggestions from my experience. I'm way older than I look, by far, and I failed almost as much as I've succeeded, and that equals for a lot of experience. Definitely in fundraising, I raised over $1.2 billion with my own hands. I raised way more through third parties, but me personally, on a roadshow facing investors in any way, shape or form you could imagine, and almost globally except for Kazakhstan. So I begin this in order to say why am I so confident about what I'm saying. Rule number 1, today, and I'm talking about today, not about 94, okay? Rule number 1, presentation, and I'm not talking about PowerPoint. I'm talking about the fact that everyone today has a very, very, very high level of, let's call it threshold of excitement. It's very difficult to excite people today. My kids, I have a son, his name is Jedi. Really, this is his name, like Star Wars, in the ID. His name is Jedi. I took Jedi proudly to show him the first Star Wars. For the first time in his life in front of a screen, he fell asleep. He's 10 years old. It's not exciting to him because now in his life, excitement is 60 frames per second of hell CGI to your face that engages every synapse. Now, and I will take it into this, and I'm sorry for being blunt. 3 presentations, 60-second pitches were here today. And I'm sorry for this. None of them took me into a place when I call it remarkable. Remarkable is something worth remarking. Because it doesn't matter what you sell. Can you excite somebody? You see an investor. This investor probably has money or is involved with a lot of money. He is bored. He's just seen the best scene out of Game of Thrones, and it was the Red Wedding. Why? Because it had the most blood in it. That has elevated his level of excitement. Now, he has seen 6 presentations of you that day. For him, it's blah, 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 we're going to be the leader of blah, 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 taking over globally, blah, 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 CTO. The question is could you actually do this to him and say, listen, this is going to be different from everything you've seen today and over the next 3 months. Wake up. I'm not just another presentation. And what's happening today is not this. People they make mistakes. If you have 3 geniuses in a company, you know who should present? The one who is the best in presenting. If there's nobody within the founders who can present, bring outside help to tell the true story. But you know what? Let's not talk at all about raising money. Let's talk about relationships. When you go on your first date, I know what I'm doing on my first date. I was trying to impress my wife because I had one shot. Because she had so many suitors behind her, and I had one shot to impress the hell out of her. And everything was tunneled into this one moment. So you cannot just stand there and say, it is very exciting what we do, and this is my friend, and we've been together in Shmona Matayim in the army, and we've done some very secretive stuff, and we need $1.5 million, thank you. It doesn't work. You need to excite people. It's the way. I'm not even talking about content right now. It's the how. It's not the one. The rule number 1, rise above the noise. Everybody has noise, so many symbols, etc. make sure your presentation wakes them up and makes you remarkable, hence worth remarking to the friends that say, I heard something interesting today. We should see those guys again, because they never remember the first one. So, yeah.
Rise above the noise.
Rise above the noise.
Right.
Number one.
It's not just about presenting the PowerPoint and the way you speak, it's also about the way you look, right?
Yes, of course. It's about everything. Okay, newsflash, you never heard it from me, and I've been in prison, so I have the prerogative of not being popular. People like beautiful people. And they don't have to be beautiful in a sense of Bara fairly beautiful or a model beautiful. But the way you look, the way you engage the audience, what you project from you. Sex appeal is not always about perfect proportions. And it works. It works. Females presenting to investors, and I know every investor will be suing me now for this. Females presenting to investors, if they don't rise above the noise in terms of the quality of how they look, how they present as an entrepreneur, they are automatically being objectified as sex object. Automatically, because it's our nature as men. We can't help it, sorry. So we see a woman and we first think how a relationship will look like. And only then we think about what she's saying. And that's a horrible, horrible thing. So for example, a female presenting to an investor, she should know that and should really focus on how she gets outside of the scope. And it's possible if you just put your mind to it. You need to train to it. You need to think about this. By the way, I can also say it because I was the only company in Israel with 9 VPs females. I was the CEO, 9 VPs female, 9 female VPs. So for a long time. So I know this, and this is just one example.
And they're also in high positions today.
All of them, all of them. All of them without exception hold positions. One of them is the CFO of Emblaze Global. The other one is managing all the R&D of SAP and so on and so forth. All of them. Yeah.
Is it important who you are raising money from? A lot of people, so we spoke with a lot of founders, but a lot of investors.
Yeah.
What you also, and they say, yeah, it's very important, you have to raise smart money and all of that. Yeah, so what do you think about the smart money issue?
All right, and again, I have this, license to kill. So, I personally, subjectively think smart money is a complete rubbish. Not because it's not smart to say it, but because of one reason. Smart money means that you have a partner on the other side that invests in you, who is vested in your business. He will help you. He will open doors. He has some strategic value. He understands your business, or he can somehow contribute to the value and to the development of the company. This by itself has a lot of holes in it, because the question is completely different. How is he as a person? Is he nice to work with? How is he under pressure? How is he or she when your money is about to run out and he disagrees with your way, but you're the CEO and the founder of the company? So is he nasty? Is he giving you hell on the board of directors? Does he really care, or he just poses it? You don't know anything about the investors. It's like going into marriage, real tight marriage, without knowing anything. It's a pure roulette. So you cannot know if it's smart money in advance. Because smart is not just about the background and what it says in the website. It's about the actual life with an investor. And by the way, I'm gambling 95 out of 100 relationship of entrepreneurs, investors are living hell. Living hell, because it's all nice. You come in with a great presentation, they love you, but the day after, you don't wear what you wore yesterday. You're not as excited because you're hungover, or you have a bad day, or a bad month, or whatever. And then the investors, they start to demand things from you, and he says veto rights.
So if it's a pure roulette, how do you decide, if you can decide?
Yeah.
Many of the founders and entrepreneurs, they can't decide. Just look for someone to start with.
Build a list of anyone who can bring money in. Talk to every single one of these people without exception. When they tell you don't shop, shop. Shop around. Go to as many people, because out of 100, you probably know there's this famous book by this Israeli guy, I always forget his name, he's on TED. No. Yes. That is the only truth about this business. There is a yes at the end of every line. If your presentation is fantastic, if your business foundations are solid, and you just make enough presentations to enough investors, there will be a yes. And the issue is, really, go to everyone and get a yes. It's purely statistical, and I know that no one will agree with me, but I don't care.
Another thing we spoke about, which is really, again, you kind of contradict the things that I learned before, is that you raise the money from anyone you can, you build what they want, and then you build what you want. Please explain. I mean, people didn't hear that.
Okay, this is a bit more complex and definitely more difficult to digest. If you are an entrepreneur, and I'm specifically saying this, if you are an entrepreneur, you're not necessarily a person who is out there on a quest to cure cancer, but you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking of curing cancer as an interesting way to project your entrepreneurial wants and skills, then you're going the wrong way. Back up and then do the opposite. Don't decide on an idea and go raise money. Check first, what is fashionable now? What are investors paying money for? And then go and find an idea in this space. I know it sounds completely ridiculous, but if you drink a bit of alcohol and sleep on it, you will start finding sense in this. Today, if you build a medical device that could save lives, you will see money in 10 years that will not be enough, and you will be semi-dead by then and probably overridden by some competition. But if you raise money for blockchain, cyber, medical cannabis, you will find money like this on a PowerPoint with a little bit of some substantiation and a very clever CTO. So, if I'm an entrepreneur, I will see what are they giving money away for now. Medical cannabis? Let's do medical cannabis. Now, after you've made your money there, go and open whatever. Go cure cancer.
But we meet a lot of founders, and everybody is like trying to head to the pitch. So yeah, we are AI based, right? Because AI is everywhere. We are deep learning stuff, and and blockchain. Everything is blockchain today. This is kind of, it doesn't sound very, very real. So
sure. Again, there are fashions. Like there was a .com thing, and there was now in cyber and this, that. There are always these moments in time where something is more fashionable to invest in. Still, go back to point number one: rise above the noise.
Yeah.
When you come into, if you haven't seen Silicon Valley yet, the series, you have to. That's an academy for raising money. So you see there on TechCrunch, you see all these people coming, and everybody says the same thing. And this is how we make the world a better place, etc. So if you're using the same corny way of presenting things with AI and deep learning, etc., you will lose eventually. Rise above the noise. Find your niche and find a way to rise above the noise within that popular niche that gives you money.
Okay, rise above the noise. Two more questions and then we're done.
Talking about AI, machine learning, etc., etc. Those are the niches that can predict the future. How can I say that you are going to lose money if you invest on those?
I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood what you're saying. My fault. Prison, old age. Yes. Again, please.
You said that machine learning, AI, is the loss of money.
No, sorry, it's not what I said. Costa asked me if AI, it's not a loss of money.
Those technologies can predict the future, can predict what is good or bad for the future. But how can you say that it's bad to invest on them?
Oh, sorry, no, it's not what I said. What I said is, for example, if AI now is very popular, make sure that your presentation is completely different and way more exciting than the presentations of your peers in this arena.
Yeah.
How to do it?
How to do it? Very good. It starts with a question. Yes. The answer is yes. Yes. By the way, if you want, you can give them my phone number or my email. If you would like to have tips for free on how to present well your idea, I give it away for free. Not a problem.
Yes.
As a person, you said before that you believe in karma. And you said that you went to prison and you really like you felt that that's your fault and you had to get it. So along your way as an entrepreneur, you thought that you are on the right way, or you know you're betting like.
Sorry, the last part, you need to repeat this, I apologize.
I said it along your way.
Yes.
That you did
As an entrepreneur, yeah?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you knew, you thought that you are doing the right way, the right thing, or you knew that you're doing like the bad thing.
I understand. Your name?
Guy.
Guy is asking me, he said, well, you said previously that when you went to prison, you believe in the karma way, that essentially that your bad deeds caught up with you and you paid your debt and so on. So as an entrepreneur, do you believe you've been handling yourself in the right way? You believe that you were doing the right thing, or essentially you were doing a bad thing? I understood correctly? אפשר בעברית. I will translate.
שעשית את זה, שהלכת במהלך הדרך שלך, אתה חשבת באותו זמן שעשית את הדברים הנכונים, או שידעת, היית מודע לזה שאתה עושה דברים שהם לא בסדר, שיכול להיות שייכנס עליהם לקרן?
Okay. So the question is simple. He asked me, everything that I did that I was convicted on, did I think that I was doing the right thing, like justifying it to myself, or did I know I was doing the wrong thing and that I may go to prison for this? So the answer is both, and I will explain. I knew I was breaking the law. I knew I could be going to prison for it, but I had a justification for myself for this risk. And I will give you an example. You have a pregnant wife. I hope you do.
I don't have yet. Not yet.
Hopefully. And she has to get to a hospital, and you put her in a car, and you drive 200 miles per hour, and I'm exaggerating. But you go way beyond the speed limit. You know that you're doing something that is against the law. You know you can go to prison for it because you're way over, and you're risking the lives of everyone around and your wives. But you strongly believe, you're convicted that you're doing the right thing for your wives, despite the risk. This was my situation.
So it's a tip.
It's absolutely not a tip, and I will tell you why. It's extremely subjective. It's extremely subjective. Because essentially, for me, I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong in terms of the law, and I've decided to pass it. Now, I could compare myself to, let's call to Martin Luther King, but I'm not, because he was doing things against the law, but he had a vision. I was doing things against the law because I justified it to myself that I need to protect my company. Whether it's right or wrong, I will let others judge. I know that I'm never sorry about things I've done in the past. I've met my wife 15 years ago. I'm not sorry about that yet. So in this respect, and I know you're normal people, you never break the law. And I will tell you, it's never black and white. It's never black and white. You will be facing very difficult decisions as an entrepreneur. Are you reporting your quarterly financials exactly as they are, or are you trying to manipulate the numbers for the good of the investors, of course? It's a huge question that every single CFO and CEO is handling every day, and I can give you like a dozens of these. There is no black and white answer, and it's always very difficult. This is what makes you a manager, not an entrepreneur. A manager is defined by the ability to make decisions.
Going back, but I really have to take about this question, take a little bit for the video maybe. Lesson learned. Going backwards, doing what you did before. Would you do things differently today? Knowing what you know today, going backwards.
No.
I will ask again.
Yeah. Say no to drugs.
Yeah, next one.
Some of them. Yes.
Yes.
So you did all these great things and many companies and you've been in the game for so long. Have you had like times when you have drawbacks of energy or motivation? And how did you handle with that to keep yourself in the progress and not like...
Your name?
Roy.
Roy. So Roy is asking me, saying, well, throughout this, all journey, you had moments in time where you've had a down, where you've been down on energy and motivation. How did you handle this? How did you keep yourself still going, etc.? I will tell you two things. A real entrepreneur has many energy downtimes, but never motivational downtimes. If you have a motivational downtime, you're not an entrepreneur. That's my definition, subjective, that's one. Second, I will give you something that, by the way, I've used, and I believe in it 100%, and it's stated that Churchill said it, I don't know if it's true, but he said something, he or someone else, the following. When you're going through hell, keep going. What does it mean? It means, usually, what we do is we look for the progress bar. We're going through hell, a difficult time, something that brings you down, no money, issues, whatever. And we're going through hell, and then we lift our face and we look for the progress bar. How far are we out to the exit? When will it be over, this bad time, etc.? This is wrong. The point is, all you need to do, just keep going. You're going through hell, bad time, another day. Fix this day, there's another day, there's another day. Tackle one day at a time when you're going through bad times, because you can handle anything for 10 seconds or for one day. Anything. So just do it in quantas of 10 seconds or a day, and then one day you will pick up your head and you will see that you're out of hell and you're in an exit and there's green pastures, Bar Rafaeli, I don't know, stuff. My wife, yeah.
Our last
Seriously, by the way, I was totally serious about that. You cannot handle, I cannot handle, humans cannot handle a lot of future stress, but they can handle small bits of stress at a time. So break it down. That's today. Let's live through today. It works. Worked for me and for others that I know. Yeah.
Our last question for today, because time is really running out.
It's all right.
Is last question is mine. Sorry. So is our Peter Pan question. Peter Pan question is for Eli Reifman. What will you do when you grow up? What are your dreams? What you want to do? Your passion for the next years.
I know it will sound totally corny. I know, but when I grow up, I wanna grow old with this lady over there, and for her to see me as worthy enough to stay with, because it's very popular today to break apart. So that would be a good ending.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.